Man's Wrath, written by OG Grunt Com.
"Stay down, mortal,"
a towering figure commanded, while seated upon a throne made of pure, crystalline light that pulsed with each syllable he spoke. He wore ancient robes of impossible fabric that laughed and swirled in the air without wind, defying gravity itself. Golden streaks flowed from the cloth's sharp edges like liquid sunlight, dancing and twisting with ethereal grace, while a sense of overwhelming warmth radiated from his body like a miniature sun. His eyes were purely golden, lacking pupils or whites, gleaming with an intensity of molten metal. His facial features were perfectly symmetrical, each angle and curve precisely measured and balanced as if cut out by master craftsmen working with divine instruments. He was perfect, or so he believed, a paragon of celestial beauty that even his godly peers could not help but admire. To himself and his fellow immortals, he was the very definition of divine perfection. Several other figures of varying shapes and sizes stood to his left and right as he spoke. His voice boomed across the large marble room with an unnatural weight. Beams of sunlight with no origin shone down through the pillars' cracks, holding what looked to be literal clouds above. A man was seen lying on the ground in front of them all. His body was bruised, with lacerations covering every inch. His breath was labored and tight, as if his lungs were on the brink of collapse, along with the rest of him. He brought his right arm up to help support his body, straining as he started to lift himself. With incredible speed, one of the figures standing in front of him, with a towering figure, appeared beside the man and kicked his arm out from underneath him, causing him to collapse yet again against the hard floor. "Be sent down," the figure said, before appearing beside the man again.
"It is impressive that you've reached this far, human. Many tend to fall to the Valkyries before appearing at the stars. You made it. That doesn't mean you deserve anything less than death, let alone standing before us,"
the towering figure said again. The human groaned in pain softly before raising his hand to lift himself again. The towering figure's perfect face frowned in anger. With just a subtle gesture, the same being as before appeared in front of the human. Instead of kicking the arm out again, he lifted the man up by his throat with a sudden burst of energy and power. The human gasped and gripped at the being's hand and forearm, his labored breath becoming increasingly strained.
"You don't deserve your place, mortal, nor do you understand the situation you have placed yourself in,"
the vast figure said.
"You will die here. You accomplished nothing."
The man continued to pull at the figure's hand, barely gaining enough space to utter a few words.
"No gods of ours."
The vast figure's eyes opened a bit. He lifted the human up again, and just as he was about to thrust him back into the ground, the towering figure spoke out again.
"Zephyrus, hold."
Zephyrus stopped suddenly on command.
"You are the reason for our existence, human. We were born by imagination of billions. As much as your kind regrets it, we are your gods,"
the towering figure said, looking towards Zephyrus and gesturing him to drop the man. With a thud, the human plopped onto the ground, his body splattering against the wet surface of his own blood. As usual, he began lifting himself up.
"What makes you think they can't make more?"
The man coughed up some blood, looking towards the towering figure.
"You have toyed with, killed, assaulted, and manipulated humanity for centuries, and you can't think of anything they would rather believe in than you."
Almost instantaneously, the man was launched nearly 30 meters into the side of a marble pillar. The impact was so heavy that even the furthest guard felt the vibration.
"I couldn't stand for his insolence, father."
A hooded figure walked out from beside the towering figure.
"I was still speaking with him by Drith,"
the towering figure replied, looking towards Whiterith, who wore an unamused face.
"Father,"
Zephyrus said concerningly,
"he questioned your celestial standing. Out of love and respect for you, father, I felt the need to intervene. I apologize."
Wydrith said, his head hanging low. The towering figure sighed.
Let's hope another human gets in here in the next century then, or you'll answer for it.
Father, Zephyrus yelled up.
What?
The towering figure responded, his voice booming. His... Zephyrus suddenly stopped speaking. The sound of wheezing could be heard from his direction, drawing the attention of the others. Standing in front of Zephyrus was the man, his hand wrapped around Zephyrus's throat. Zephyrus was on his knees, gasping at the man's hands and forearms in distress, his eyes mixed with both confusion and utter terror.
Zephyrus, you look weak. Kill him,
the towering figure commanded. A golden mist-like substance began to seep slowly from Zephyrus's eyes and mouth, his hands desperately trying to pull away from the man's grip. As more and more of the misty substance pulled away from his body and poured into the man, it started to mend the wounds across his body.
Your Valkyries were fast. I had to learn to hit them when they thought they won. Their hubris brought them to their knees, like you, Zephyrus,
the man said condescendingly. With fierce urgency, Zephyrus launched a barrage of strikes. His godlike swiftness enabled him to rain down blows upon the mysterious figure's arms and face. Though each impact cracked through the air like thunder, they proved ineffective. While the ethereal vapor drained from his form into his opponent, a deity of boundless power and quickness began to falter. He started to slow down.
"Unhand him now,"
the towering figure demanded, the rest of the figures around him tensing up or grabbing their strapped weapons.
"You don't command me, imp,"
the man said. Zephyrus, at this point, stopped fighting back. His grip around the man's forearm was weak and soon went limp. The towering figure's eyes grew wide, an intense feeling swelling within his chest like molten steel. Something that felt ancient and primal stirred in his stage of life, a sensation he hadn't experienced in centuries. Pure, unbridled rage. One of the figures exploded out from behind the towering figure, their armor gleaming under the harsh light. It wielded a large blade that hummed with a deadly purpose, its edge catching the light as a bladed figure's body came down against the man with a thundering impact that shook the very ground beneath them. "Morak!" one of the female figures cried out. The immense power and weight that hit the man and the ground around him ripped the earth asunder. Small fissures tore outwards like lightning strikes from the impact site as dust and smoke billowed upwards in thick clouds. The force of the collision sent tremors through the surrounding area, causing loose pebbles to dance and scatter across the fractured terrain. The air itself seemed to vibrate with aftershock of such a raw destructive power. The hooded figure waved his hand to the right. The dust was carried off by an unseen force, revealing a terrifying sight. Zephyrus lay on the ground beneath, his golden eyes substituted with two dark onyx spheres. The man remained upright, a shattered blade smeared around his body. Morak's face was firmly held in the grasp of the man's right hand.
"You're just a human,"
the towering figure stated. The man tightened his grip on Morak's face, his fingers digging into the figure's skull. Feeling the divine essence pulsing beneath the surface, he snarled and lifted Morak off the ground as if he were a mere child. The god's eyes widened underneath his grip, confusion swirling within those once calm depths.
"Look how you accomplished nothing," he growled, channeling the energy coursing through him.
With a sudden surge of power, he hurled Morak backwards like a rag doll. The deity collided with marble pillar, shattering it into a rain of dust and stone shards. A resounding crack echoed through the chamber as Morak crumpled to the ground, stunned and gasping for air. The towering figure stepped forward, eyes blazing with fury.
"You dare!"
The man cut him off.
"Dare? No, I'm doing what they should have done ages ago."
He turned to face the others, his presence now radiating an otherworldly aura. Morak staggered back to his feet, dazed but determined to fight again. Yet something shifted in the air. It felt charged with raw energy. The man met Morak's gaze head-on. Morak found himself looking into two swirling pools of golden light. The moment froze as their eyes locked, Morak's disbelief against the man's newfound brilliance, as if ignited by the very contact. his own eyes transformed into radiant gold, mirroring those of the gods surrounding him.
"What are you?"
Marak stammered, uncertainty creeping into his voice.
"I am the result of your actions. I am your consequences,"
he declared, with conviction, each word dripping with authority that shook the foundation of their beliefs.
"I am the child born from their cries for justice, and they will no longer bow to your cruelty."
With that proclamation hanging heavy in the air, tension rippled amongst the deities as they realized that they were facing something far beyond their control. A being who wielded their own divine power against them.
"I am man's wrath, and you're in my seat."
End of story. I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Vidmori, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.